Once again, the urge for a new adventure came calling. I set my sights on South America, and then began planning an expedition that would allow me to climb a 5,000-meter peak in the Andes, and then surf Chile's wild coast. My buddy Usud, we set out on an adventure that would push us to our limits and change our lives forever. After some research, I found a 5,400-meter peak located in the central Chilean Andes that could be climbed in just 4 days. We booked our flights, sorted out the logistics we could, and got packed. After we touched down in Santiago, day one was a complete blur. From the moment we landed, our mission was to acquire the supplies we would need for our 4-day climb and then find a way out to the mountains. It seemed we had explored every transportation option before we managed to find an Uber driver who would drive us over 2 hours to get to the mountains. His name was Ricardo. Despite Ricardo's lack of English and our lack of Spanish, we struck a deal to call him once we'd finished in 4 days. Then, we had our first roadblock. We were told by authorities at the trailhead that we needed to inform Chilean police of our climbing route. Not only was the sun now beginning to set, the police station was located 11 kilometers away. With the mountain closing for the night in less than 30 minutes, we would need to find a ride, and fast. So, we hitchhiked on a Brazilian tour bus. Although they didn't speak any English, we could definitely tell they were confused by the 2 Canadians who hopped on last minute with all of our climbing gear in tow. We made it to the police station in time and notified them of our itinerary. Just in time, we started our trek to Camp 1 as the sun descended. Our first day was cut short due to the police issue, so we were only able to make it 4 kilometers up trail before setting up camp for the night. This hindered our plans to acclimate over a few days for a better chance at making the summit. After a cold night's sleep and a long day ahead, we started early and began our trek to the established base camp. We battled heavy packs and altitude for most of the day. Then, the deep Andes began to reveal themselves. Later in the day, Usud began to fight some early signs of altitude sickness. We couldn't reach the established base camp, and we were forced to set up 2 kilometers shy of the intended location. Nestled deep in the Andes, we set up camp and got to bed early. To have the best shot of the summit, we had to start our next day before sunup. In the cold and under the stars, we began our summit bid. We got 100 meters from camp when Usud informed me that he could not continue due to altitude. I'm going alone. At the base of the mountain, I was faced with a challenging and steep scramble over a section of scree and loose rock. I hope I can start today. Usud is too soon for altitude. Not so long. Just below me, the trail was completely swept away. From a slab avalanche. I just scrambled through that section of scree. But I made it through. We're approaching the summit push. That's where I'm heading. As I pushed on, it felt like the summit was moving further away with every step. My body was starting to show signs of weakness due to altitude. With no partner and no signs of any other climbers, I knew I had to be cautious. About 5,000 meters right now. 5 steps, I gotta take a break. And it's pretty thin air. Shortly after recording the previous clip, I summited a smaller adjacent peak at 5,150 meters. At this point, my body began to shut down from the altitude. I fought the urge to pass out and made the decision to descend to base camp. I made it back by mid-afternoon. Just left base camp, heading out. Woo. It was a long day of trekking, but we finally reached the trailhead and found our friend Ricardo, who promptly drove 2 hours to come pick us up. Thank God for Ricardo. Back in the city, it was a strange feeling looking back at the mountains we had just trekked through. I felt an urgency to get away from the crowds and noise of the city and move on to our next adventure. We booked our bus tickets and got set for sunshine and surf on Chile's wild coast. We grabbed a bite to eat, headed to the bus station, and finally escaped the confines of the city. At last, we were en route to Chile's surf capital. By midday, we had checked into our surf retreat in Pichelemu.
Brought the truck from our boy Ismail. Boards in the back. Let's get it.
After getting scammed by a local rideshare service, Ismail, the owner of the retreat, generously loaned us his own truck. He gave us two conditions, and I quote, "Wave when people recognize you and avoid police," because he had no insurance and no registration.
Oh, bro. Oh.
We picked up our new ride and headed to the beach to chase some swell. Although we did catch some waves, we didn't rip anywhere near as hard as the locals. The next day, we were invited to the locals' house for some food and drinks.
Only that
So, and then we're here. So,
Claim de Leonera.
There we met Cristobal and Felipe. We talked about surfing, culture, and life. Cristobal generously cooked us an incredible Chilean dish. We laughed, taught them some Canadian slang, and learned some more about the Chilean surf culture.
servir ahora. We're gonna serve to these guys from Canada, all right, to try this like the Chilean flavor. We can serve this guy to try this Chilean flavor, right?
All right.
Look at this.
Oh, amazing!
I know. We made with so much love for these guys
Oh yeah.
before they leave to Canada. They go Canada. Damn.
Gracias.
No, they're not. Please.
As this amazing adventure began to wrap up and my time in Chile came to an end, I began thinking about how fortunate I am to experience its untamed beauty. Sure, chasing summits and finding the perfect wave have their own rewards. But what will stay with me the most from this adventure are the human connections and shared experiences. To the people of Chile we met along the way, thank you. This journey would not have been possible without your kindness, guidance, and patience. This place will truly hold a special place in my heart, and I'm certain I will return one day. I'll see you all again soon on the next adventure.